Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Leica D 14 to 50mm zoom lens. Here it is, the 14 to 50mm, and I've got it mounted here on a Panasonic Lumix L1 digital SLR. Now if you buy the Lumix L1, this is in fact the standard kit lens that you get in the package. Or alternatively, if you go for Leica's own version of this body, the Digilux 3, this is the lens you'll get. However, the lens is also available separately, and as a standard 4/3 model, it should work on any Olympus digital SLR brought out so far. And it equips those Olympus DSLRs with a very unique feature that we'll demonstrate in just a moment. But right now, let's have a look at the build quality and design of this lens. Like all Leica products, it's built to a very high standard. It feels very solid in your hands, and all the moving parts, like the zoom ring, move very smoothly. And if I do zoom the lens into its maximum 50mm focal length, you'll see the lens barrel hardly extends at all. If you have a closer look at the area where the lens mounts onto the body, you'll also see that Leica and Panasonic, who jointly developed this lens, have gone for an analog style aperture ring. This gives a really tactile operation in practice, and it's really nice to see it back on a modern product like a digital SLR. However, it's important to note that this facility only works when you've got the lens mounted on the L1 or the Digilux 3. If you have it mounted instead on, say, an Olympus DSLR, you have to enter the aperture as you would with any other lens on those bodies, i.e. by turning a dial on the top or the back of the camera. Now this lens has one very important feature that we've not mentioned yet, and it's indicated by a switch on the side of the barrel. OIS stands for Optical Image Stabilization, and it is in fact the first and only 4/3 lens that has this facility. Now if you've got an Olympus DSLR, there's just one mode, you switch it on or you switch it off. However, if you have this lens mounted on a Panasonic or Leica's own body, then you get an additional option that you can select in a menu using the camera itself. This actually has a slightly more effective stabilization than the normal mode, and we've got a full explanation of how that works and example images in our full review at CameraLabs.com. But right now, let's have a look at the coverage of this lens in practice. This image was taken with the Leica lens zoomed out to its widest angle setting of 14mm. Now when you have one of these lenses mounted on a 4/3 body, you effectively reduce the field of view by 2 times. That means that the effective focal length is multiplied by 2 times, so this is working at an equivalent focal length of 28mm, so it's a fairly average wide-angle shot. Now this image was taken with the Leica lens zoomed all the way in to its maximum focal length of 50mm, is therefore acting at an equivalent focal length of 100mm. The Leica lens is offering a pretty average kit lens range. It's a general purpose option, and it gets slightly longer than say the Olympus kit lenses, but not by a great deal. Speaking of Olympus, as we mentioned earlier, the Leica lens is a standard 4/3 fitting, which means it should work absolutely fine on any Olympus digital SLR. So to put that to the test, here's the E410 body, here's the Leica lens, and let's try them together. So I'm going to line up the red dots, twist the barrel, and there it is, the Leica 14 to 50mm mounted on the Olympus E410. Now you'll notice straight away that this lens looks relatively large compared to the fairly compact body of the E410, and certainly if you have a look at our E410 video and the full review at CameraLabs.com, you'll see that the kit lenses that come with the Olympus body are certainly much better suited to its tiny size. However, this lens, despite being very well built, isn't as heavy as it looks, so in your hand this combination doesn't actually feel that out of place. So what do you get when you mount it on the Olympus? Well, you get exactly the same coverage as before, an equivalent of 28 to 100mm. You get the same focal ratio as before, f2.8 to 3.5, slightly brighter than the kit lens, although it's important to note that the analog style aperture ring here won't work. As we mentioned earlier, you need to leave this on the A position and adjust the aperture electronically as with other Olympus lenses. The really crucial thing about this lens though is that it's the only one that's currently available that will equip bodies like the E410 with optical stabilization. So if you're interested in anti-shake facilities on this body, this currently is the only lens that will do it. And to see how that works in practice, let's go outside. We're outside with the Leica 14 to 50mm mounted on the Olympus E410, so to demonstrate what the optical image stabilization works like in practice, let's activate the live view mode. So I press the live view button and there's the view actually in front of us as we speak. Now, the optical image stabilization is currently turned off, and you can see a very slight wobble. I'm zoomed in here to 50mm, so I'm working at an equivalent focal length of 100mm. Not a massive amount, but still enough to register a bit of wobbling. Now, if I flick the switch on the side of the lens to activate the stabilization, you'll see that the image is certainly steadier than before, but it's quite hard to tell how effectively that's working. So what I'm going to do is switch that stabilization off again, and now use the E410's facility of actually magnifying a portion for help when you're doing manual focus. Now you'll see a green rectangle is just positioned at the ridgeline of the mountain. When I press the OK button, we're going to magnify that section. So here's that section, and you can see that mountain ridge. This is definitely wobbling a lot, and this is at 10 times magnification. Now if I switch on the optical stabilization switch again, you'll see that's become much steadier. I'm now going to move the lens around the mountain ridge, and you can see it's definitely much steadier than before. If I switch that feature off, just look how much I'm shaking there. The Leica D 14 to 50mm is undeniably a quality piece of equipment. The build quality is excellent, the optical quality is excellent, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. The optical stabilization works, and we've seen in this video how it can equip an existing Olympus digital SLR with anti-shake facilities. And crucially, as we've mentioned throughout this video, that is a unique feature of this lens. There are currently no other lenses available in the 4/3 fit that have anti-shake facilities. So the very simple ending to this would be, if you have an Olympus body and you want stabilization, get this lens. You have no other choice. But that's not strictly true. You see, this lens, being a very high quality product from Leica, isn't exactly cheap. It will cost you about $1,000 US. And it's important to consider what else $1,000 US could buy you, in photographic terms that is. $1,000 US will get you an Olympus E510, which has built-in stabilization. So instead of buying this lens and equipping an older body with it, why not just buy a completely brand new body that has built-in stabilization? Chances are, if you were thinking about fitting this lens on an older Olympus body, it's also a lower resolution one. Maybe you've got an E500, that's got 8 megapixels. Well, upgrade to the E510, you get 10 megapixels and you get live view. And you get built-in stabilization that will work with any of your lenses, not just this one that you attach. Crucially, that price is actually also for the Olympus E510 twin lens kit that comes with the 2 kit lenses, giving an equivalent focal range of not just 28 to 100 but 28 to 300 millimeters. So when you look at it in those terms, it's a much more practical option. One of the other things that's worth realizing is that Panasonic and Leica recently announced another optically stabilized lens for the 4/3 fit, a 14 to 150mm, so a single lens that would deliver a 28 to 300mm equivalent range with stabilization. Now if the price is right for that lens, that could be a real killer option for owners of existing Olympus DSLRs. However, if you have the choice between this or the Olympus E510 twin lens kit, chances are most people would go for the latter. However, it still remains a very high quality option nonetheless, and to see the full results for it, some sample images taken with a variety of 4/3 bodies, then head over to our full review at www.cameralabs.com. There you'll also find full reviews of the Panasonic Lumix L1 and the Olympus E410 bodies that were both shown in this video.